we're now hearing from New York Attorney General Letitia James for the first time since she was indicted on federal charges. She took the stage at a rally for New York City Democratic mayoral nominee Zohran Mamdani last night. She did not specifically mention the president by name, but made it clear in the wake of her indictment, she says she's not afraid.
Triumph over fear and courage. Courage, my friend, is resistance to fear. And so I fear no man.
I am. All right, CNN's Gloria Pazmino, you're seeing her right there. She was in this room. Thousands of people at this rally.
3,200 to be exact, in a room that could fit 3,500. And although Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic mayoral nominee, was the headliner of the evening, Tish James got a standing ovation that lasted for several minutes, and people there were extremely sort of excited and in support of her. This is the first time we're seeing her in public after the indictment. And you could hear in her remarks that even though she didn't name check President Trump, she was very much talking about him. Now, James referred to Zohran Mamdani at one point as her little brother. She really complimented him, called him one of the boldest voices in New York's political history. And she tried to draw this contrast in the moment that we're in now, including her indictment and his election. And she talked about not being afraid, trying to show a united front against Trump between her and Mamdani. Take a listen.
On solid rock, and I will not bow, I will not break, I will not bend, I will not capitulate, I will not give in, I will not give up.
You know, John, I was at the Attorney General's campaign launch several years ago when she first announced that she was running for Attorney General. And she was making remarks very similar to what we heard last night back then, saying that she planned to hold Donald Trump accountable. Since the indictment, she's raised nearly $1 million in donations from her supporters. So we're seeing the effect that that's having. And in terms of this Democratic mayoral race that we are about to have in a few weeks, the general election is in November. We're just a few weeks away. We're seeing another prominent Democrat get involved today. The governor, Kathy Hochul, will be appearing with the nominee, Zohran Mamdani, back in his home district in Queens. It's the first time they're appearing together since she endorsed him.
All right, a lot going on. Swirling political worlds and legal worlds here. All of your beats wrapped up into one. Right. Gloria Pazmino, great to see you. Thank you very much. Let's get right to CNN senior legal analyst, former federal prosecutor Ellie Honig. Counselor, great to see you this morning. First on Letitia James, a fiery rally last night where she didn't mention President Trump by name, but she talked about the weaponization of the Justice Department. What does that tell you about her possible defense strategy? And what's the risk reward for being so public when you are under federal indictment?
Well, John, it's always a bad idea for anyone who's under federal indictment to make any public statement because, as we know, anything you say can and will be used against you in court. That said, it has to be relevant. And I did not hear anything in Letitia James's comments that would be relevant to the actual mortgage fraud claims against her. So I don't think any of that is going to be played back in court. That said, rest assured, prosecutors will be watching everything she says. To the larger point, John, there's quite a bit of hypocrisy at play here. I mean, there's very little question that Donald Trump has politically targeted Letitia James. You can see that in Donald Trump's social media posts. You can see that in the removal and replacement of the prosecutor who did not want to bring these charges. Without a doubt, Letitia James can argue that before trial to try to get this case dismissed. She might well succeed. But let's also not whitewash history here. Letitia James did essentially the same thing to Donald Trump. She ran for office explicitly targeting him. She fundraised on that. She brought a lawsuit that ultimately was gutted, not quite entirely dismissed, but mostly reversed by a liberal appeals court in New York State. So they're both wrong. They've both targeted each other, and one does not validate the other.
Is weaponization of justice a legal strategy that can go from the outside to inside a courtroom with any level of success?
For sure. Yeah, Letitia James, as a criminal defendant, will be able to raise a pretrial motion to dismiss based on what we call selective or vindictive prosecution. And so if she can show that she was singled out from among others who've engaged in similar conduct because of her political persuasion, then yes, you can get a judge to throw out a case before it gets to a jury. I think Jim Comey's going to have a strong argument along those lines. I think Letitia James is going to have a strong argument along those lines based on Donald Trump's own public statements. So we'll see what those judges do. But yeah, this could absolutely play out in court as well.
So we don't know what will happen next and to whom, but there has been reporting that federal prosecutors are preparing an indictment against former National Security Advisor Ambassador John Bolton that may have to do with the retention of classified documents there. Ellie, what do you see is going on here? And it is worth noting, Bolton, like James, like Comey, is someone who current President Trump has targeted as a political opponent. But how is this case possibly different?
Yeah, I'm going to withhold judgment on the Bolton case until we see an indictment, if there is one. But there are indicators that there may be more legitimacy to this case. The reporting is that this case against John Bolton originated during the prior administration, the Biden administration. There are also indicators that this case developed organically, that it was based on a leak of information from John Bolton or provision by John Bolton of information to some foreign entities, which then came to the attention of American intelligence. Also worth noting, John, two separate federal judges, one in Maryland, one in D.C., both reviewed and approved search warrants. When John Bolton's home and office were searched back in August, that had to go through two separate federal judges, both of whom found at least probable cause to engage in those searches. So if there's an indictment, as the reporting says there could be sometime soon, let's take a close look at that. I'm not so sure that's going to fall in the same bucket as the Comey and James cases.
Just, Americans, I think voters know a lot about the classified document retention now. Do we know how this case could be similar or different to the cases of, say, former President Biden or current President Trump and their retention of classified documents?
Right. There certainly is recent precedent of investigations and in some cases prosecutions. Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, all were subject of substantial investigations for mishandling of classified info. The two key facts to watch for: one was the handling of that classified information or mishandling. Was it intentional or was it accidental? And second of all, was that information disseminated? Did the person provide it to any outsider? Those are really two key questions. If the answer to both of those is yes, then I think it's much more likely we will actually see a criminal indictment of John Bolton.
As you say, we don't know for certain right now, and obviously we need to see the details if and when it does come out. Counselor Ellie Honig, always great to see you. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.